Hey everybody. I thought that the ethics question quiz that we had to take was a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be. Um, I got more of the questions wrong than I thought I was going to get, but it wasn't for not knowing. Well, not knowing in the wrong way. I think it was much more being unaware of some of the rules. One that really shocked me was the question about having sexual relations with a student, and I knew that it was wrong. Like it said, like the day after they graduated, but the correction under it said that it was not allowed until the following, it said August the 31st of their graduating year. I think I was unaware that there were such specific guidelines put into play. I think many of my teachers would never even think to have any sort of romantic or sexual relationship with a student until at least many, many years after they had graduated. Another question that I got wrong, was the question about the student being kicked out of their parents' house and the educator letting them stay at their house. I just think in my head that yes, teachers are supposed to be um, helpers and they're supposed to look out for what's best for the students. But I just think that I thought that there was a black and white line, and I would think that that would be in a gray area. But what it turns out is since it was very black and white and they slept on the couch and they were helping the student, then it wasn't in a gray area at all. It was very black and white and was the correct thing to do. So I thought that was a lot more interesting. So I think the corrections were more interesting to me than actually what the answer to the questions were, because I knew what was right and what was wrong, but I think I didn't know why it was wrong, if that makes sense, on a exact moral, conduct of standard basis. So, and the second question, I think a lot of people have very mixed opinions on it, but I think commercializing in a school is much more beneficial than it is harmful. I think as students, you don't realize as much as you think. I mean, when I'm thinking back to high school and middle school, I'm not thinking about the Coke machines and the projectors that were used and the other mini brands that were put into our school that were possibly a large amount of the funding that was needed for that school. I also think with lower finance schools that commercialization would be a lot more acceptable. But I also don't think that it would be distracting, as distracting as some people are saying. I think that it would be a lot more helpful and you don't realize it as long as it's not being thrown in your face. And from what I can tell of all my years in school, it's never really been thrown in your face, if that makes sense. The last question, I really enjoyed researching like the places that gave teachers discounts. I've seen a lot of stuff on Facebook actually about the debate of, doctors don't have to pay for their medical resources, so why should teachers have to pay for their teaching resources? And there's a lot of debate right now about teachers having to pay for their own supplies. I personally think that should come out of government funding. I think it should come to a point where you have a budget and, if you want to spend it on decorations and all of that, and then you choose to not have paper and pencils and that stuff in your classroom, then that falls down on you. But I think if you had a budget of $300 and you took that money and spent it on what the classroom needed, then the teachers could pay for the things that were not needed. For example, of the lining for your cork boards and stuff like that, and the decorative name tags and all of the things that teachers love to decorate their classrooms with, but they're not necessities for the children to learn with, if that makes sense. But I found it more interesting that clothing places gave teachers discounts. As we all know, many jobs have clothing requirements. But I think as teachers, it's very strict as to what we can wear, as we have a dress code, just like the students have a dress code. That Macy's and Old Navy, a lot of places like that give 10 to 15% off for teachers if you show your school ID and proof that you work at a school. And also, there are many days during like when back to school starts, that is just simply for teachers getting discounts, bigger discounts than year-round discounts. I know Staples does it. I know Target does it. I know Walmart does it. But I know that Staples and Target also do year-round discounts, which is 10% off if you show your, like I said, your ID. So I think that was interesting that more places than just school supply places did it, because they realized teachers do need more than just school supplies to successfully do their job. If they had inappropriate clothing, it would distract from the importance of their job. So yeah,